6 years, 8 fights. 6 years, 8 fights. That's how long it's been since Tony Ferguson El Cucuy has tasted the sweet taste of victory. It has been 6 years. 2019 was the last time that Tony Ferguson had his hand raised in the octagon when he defeated Donald Cerrone. 6 years, 8 fights. The man owns the record for not only the longest win streak in lightweight history, tied with Islam Makhachev and Khabib Nurmagomedov, two all-time legends, but he also owns the record for the longest losing streak in UFC history. Not just lightweight, but UFC history. He went from going on the longest winning streak to the longest losing streak. It's a story quite like none I've ever seen. And that's why it was so emotional when he finally tasted that sweet, sweet taste of victory against Salt Papi at the Misfits boxing event. And although it's a far cry from the glory days, he defeated a YouTuber, but Salt Papi is a talented boxer when it comes to YouTube boxing. He is no slouch. He's pretty good. And Tony Ferguson getting that victory was just a sweet, sweet victory for a man that has dealt with nothing but pain and agony over the last 6 years. A guy that we once were so excited to see fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov. A fight that had fans divided. Who would win that fight? Would Tony's vicious elbow style defeat Khabib's heavy grappling style? It was a fight that we wanted so badly. A fight that was made several times that kept falling apart. Fate would not have that fight. It kept falling apart. Tony literally fell. He tripped over a cable and tore ligaments and was unable to fight. And Khabib had to pull out from being sick. And there was just so many things that led up to that fight never happening. And what we saw in the ring after he got his hand raised against Salt Papi was a man having a cathartic release. A man who was once the top of his sport, the pinnacle of MMA in the UFC, finally tasting what it feels like to win. And yes, it's not the greatest victory. It's not a victory over an elite opponent, but it is a victory for a man that definitely deserves one. Where I am concerned and where I think that this is problematic is now that he is the Misfits champion, he's going to keep wanting to fight. And at over 40 years old now, I think he should retire on a victory because it's not going to end well for Tony Ferguson. He's already sustained so much damage. His fight with Justin Gaethje, the fight that started the losing streak, was a fight that I'll never forget because it was right when the pandemic had started. So it was an empty arena in the Apex, and you heard every blow.
All those leg kicks.
Every single
oh,
blow
goodness. Oh my.
from Justin Gaethje's heavy hands landing on Tony Ferguson's face. You heard it, and you felt it as a viewer. And Tony Ferguson sustained serious damage in that fight. I think no fight defines who Tony Ferguson is as a fighter better than his fight against Charles Oliveira, where he was put in such a nasty armbar. He had his arm bending backwards, and yet he refused to tap. The sheer amount of pain he was experiencing in these moments. Any sane man, any man who values his health, his future, would have tapped. But not Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, a man who was so hell-bent on winning. A man that had only tasted that one defeat to Gaethje at this point after his 12-fight winning streak. He was a man on a mission still. And that fight defines Tony Ferguson for me, the type of fighter that he is and specifically was. Tony Ferguson will forever be, in the minds of real MMA fans, a legend. A man that was as vicious as there was, unorthodox as there was, unpredictable. Pure entertainment, pure excitement. His fight against Anthony Pettis is another fight that really stands out as one that defines who he was as a fighter. Blood dripping everywhere. That fight was so bloody, as were most of Tony's fights. That image forever ingrained in my mind. And I beg Tony Ferguson, and I beg any fight fans, anyone who has a voice, to urge Tony Ferguson to hang it up and retire, because it's not going to get much better than how it just was. A sweet victory for a man that needed one. Ride off in the sunset. Allow your brain to heal. You'll always be a legend in the minds of fight fans, Tony Ferguson, and I hope that you please retire. If you love MMA, if you love UFC, if you love fighting, subscribe to my channel. I promise to keep pumping out great content for you guys. Stay tuned for the next one. MMT out.